clerk please call the roll?
Yes, I'll call the roll. I'll begin with Daisy Castro.
Hello.
Thank you. Jonathan Bruns noted that he'll be joining us a little bit later tonight. Lenka Wright.
I see Lenka.
Yep, present.
Thank you. BJ Fadum. Sylvia Alvarez. Freddie Sidbury.
Present.
Andrew Ditlevson.
Present.
Thank you. Ramon Martinez.
Present.
And Adina Cardenas.
Present.
Thank you. And Gloria Collins.
Present. Hi.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the orders of the day?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Lenka. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great.
I'll call the roll. Daisy Castro.
Yes.
Lenka.
Yes.
Freddie.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yep.
Ramon. Yes, I see your hand there. Thank you. And Adina
Yes.
and Gloria.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Great. Next on our agenda is public record. There's no public record, so we'll move on to the consent calendar to approve the minutes for our meeting of June 17th. Is there any member of the public who would like to address this item on the consent calendar?
I see no hands. I'm also having a hard time picking your audio up. And Adina.
Let me try to move things around here. Is that a little
That's
bit better?
Yeah, that was
Okay,
better.
Great. Thank you for that. Would any of the commissioners like to pull this item for discussion? I see no hands raised. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Freddie, I see your hand. Thank you. Can I get a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Lenka. Can the clerk please call the roll?
I'll call the roll. Daisy.
Sorry, I was present. Yes.
Thank you. Lenka.
Yes.
Freddie.
Yes.
Andrew.
Abstain as I was absent.
Ramon.
Yes.
And Adina
Yes.
and Gloria.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Great. The next order of business are the reports. I have a brief comment. I just wanted to make sure we welcome Commissioner Gloria Collins to the commission, who was recently appointed from District 4. Welcome, Gloria. We're glad to have you with us.
You.
Next, I believe the clerk has a report for us today.
Yeah, you actually handled part of the report. I was going to announce Gloria, but if you're not already aware, the chair, Teresa Alvarado, resigned due to her workload, her personal workload. So that recruitment is going on. I've been on vacation for 2 weeks, so I don't know what else has been going on for 2 weeks. The recruitment on that. I know the mayor's office is the one who appoints it. They've been given applications, but I don't have an update other than that resign.
Okay, and do you know if we'll have any more information before the public hearings start?
Well, I've asked them to have an appointment done by August 3rd, that we will have an appointment done before the first public hearing. But I'm still on vacation. In fact, I'm on vacation today. My main thing on vacation is just not looking at emails. And I feel like it's been 2 years since I looked at an email. So I'm kind of forgetting how work works right now. But yeah, we should, I've asked them to appoint somebody before that first public hearing. And I can send you guys out an info memo after I get back from vacation and get some updates.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tony. Is there any member of the public who would like to address the clerk's report?
There's no hands.
Okay, and actually, before we move on, I wanted to make sure to give our consultant redistricting partners a chance if they have a report for us. I know they'll be presenting shortly. I don't see anybody from,
Paul has his hand up.
oh, great.
I'm trying to move him to panelist to just make it easier for him.
Greetings. I don't have a report at this time other than I'll be prepared to present on the community of interest.
Great, thanks, Paul. Good to see you. Okay, moving on, the next item is public hearing. There's no public hearing tonight, so we can move on to old business. We do have an old business item for discussion on the communities of interest, the public hearings, and the outreach. Tony, would you like to address this item?
Other than to just introduce Paul to talk about it. I mean, I'm working on the schedule. We've got the schedule out. I'm working on the room bookings. I've contacted the other alternative locations that you guys sent to me for. It was District 5 and 8, I believe. So working on trying to move those to the alternative locations. Those ones are scheduled later on the schedule, so I've got a little extra time compared to the first few. Our website's been updated with the community of interest survey in all the different languages, and that link to that page was sent to all of the council offices for inclusion in their newsletters. And that is all.
Great.
All right,
thanks,
thank you very
Tony.
much. I wanted to talk about the communities of interest process, and one way we've been doing it is by showing you, or commissions that are doing this, the type of overview presentation we would give at the beginning of a community of interest meeting in order to kind of bring the public's awareness up a little bit, to inform them a little bit about the redistricting process, and then identify kind of how communities of interest work within the context of redistricting, and even give some tips as to how to think about talking about your community of interest when you're going to be coming before the redistricting body. And it's as much a tip for the public participating as it is for you in developing that ear for, listening to the information the public's giving us. Because hearing people talk about their community is one thing, but hearing people talk about their community, then being able to think about how to place that within the redistricting context is another. So this presentation that I'll show you is essentially both for you and for the public. So if that's okay, I'll just go through that real quick. And then I'll also show, as a part of this, we generally show the mapping software, so I can show how we would walk through that a little bit. And then I'm happy to take any questions. So the basic presentation we would do would be pretty similar to the kind of overview, some of which you've seen before, where basically we talk about, the redistricting basics, the traditional redistricting principles. We talk about communities of interest, obviously. We give a tool demonstration of the Districtor map tool. Then we also show other ways people can give public testimony on communities of interest. And then always finish up kind of with what is the remaining hearing schedule, because we presume this is going to be done largely online, and if not only online, then using hybrid of online and in person, and being able to give that information where people can participate in the future is always valuable. So we start by talking about just simply what is redistricting. And largely people think about redistricting as the national context, Congress, the legislature, but local governments also need to go through redistricting. And this redistricting has to happen every 10 years after the decennial census. And redistricting and rebalancing these districts for equal population has essentially two goals. One is we want to have people have equal representative power. We want them to know that if they have a pothole in their street, that they have the same ability to contact a council member and seek, a fix to their pothole or street light or whatever issues going on, the same as somebody else on the other side of the city. And if populations are unequal, then representative power is unequal. We had one agency we worked with that had districts where one district was 12,000 people, the other district was 100,000 people. So in the area with 100,000 people, if they had a pothole, their power to go to the representative was 8 times less than the power of somebody living in a 12,000 person district. So that rebalancing for representation is important. It's a constitutional right. The second part is the idea of one person, one vote. And that's also a constitutional right, that my vote shouldn't be stronger than somebody else's vote simply because of where I live or what district I live in. And in that example with the 12,000, 100,000 districts, the math was a little different. It was 10,000 and 70,000, I think, voters. And so when you actually got down to that, the ratio was about 7 to 1. Still the same principle held, that some people's votes were more important than others. So balancing the districts helps alleviate that. The traditional criteria that we've talked about and that folks who want to learn more about can go back and watch older presentations that you've had as a commission include that districts be equally sized, like I just talked about. Districts also need to be contiguous. They need to be whole parts. They need to maintain communities of interest. They should follow existing city, county, local government lines. And in a city council redistricting, oftentimes neighborhoods are one of the primary building blocks of districts. They should be keeping districts compact. There's, in an earlier presentation, I went through all the different mathematical ways that you can measure compactness, or different ways in different states they measure compactness. In California, compactness is a very elegant, although kind of like hard to understand the first time you hear it, definition. And that is a district should not go get far away population in lieu of getting other nearby population. So districts that have serpentine paths to go out to far away population, dodging and diving past other nearby population would not under state law be considered compact. And all of this needs to be done while following the Federal Voting Rights Act. So Voting Rights Acts, if people were to Google, they might find there's a California Voting Rights Act and the Federal Voting Rights Act. The California Voting Rights Act doesn't have any bearing in the city of San Jose. It only affects agencies that have at-large election systems. But the Federal Voting Rights Act does affect your redistricting. And in particular, Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act, which is still intact federally at the national level, would impact your redistricting if it is found that any minority population, and in California it's largely Latinos, Asians, and African Americans, but it can also be Native Americans. We're doing work in Alaska where it's, Alaskan Natives are a Section 2 federally protected community. And if a districting system works to dilute the voting power of these communities, and it can be shown that districts can be created in which those communities would be 50% or more of a district, then that might be something the commission's obliged to create. At the same time, communities of interest can include racial groups, but race cannot be a predominant factor in drawing district boundaries. So we as commissioners will not want to call a district the Asian district or the Latino district or the Black district. It's a district that represents different communities. And if there is not a Section 2 requirement, then drawing districts needs to look at those ethnic communities and their other socioeconomic factors and other ways that those communities are tied together in order to justify drawing those districts. So it's not just simply drawn based on race. So that is a part of this that is, we involve attorneys and we talk about it, but we will make sure that the Voting Rights Act is followed in this process. The communities of interest, they serve as building blocks, but it's important to note that these are somewhat subjective. And we want to have a process that's really open and allows a inclusive environment for people to come in and talk about their community of interest. Communities of interest, in addition to the ones I talked about, it could include, other types: apartment renters, homeowners, people who go to certain churches, speak different languages. It can include a lot of things. And the idea within California law around communities of interest is that if a community of interest can benefit from being in one district, that it should be kept within one district. If the community of interest will have better representative power or better voting power, then it should be included in one district, and it would be a violation of the state law to take a community like that could be empowered by a district and split them up into 2 or 3 or 5 districts. There are things we cannot consider as a community of interest. If somebody comes forward and says, me and all my libertarian friends live in this area and we want to be drawn in a district together, that just needs to go in one ear and out the other. We cannot consider that as one of the criteria. If one of them says, my husband is a city council member and our address is 1310 Maple Street and I want to be in this district, we can't consider that. That is not a community of interest that's legal for us to consider. And if somebody were to come up to the microphone and say, hey, I live in this house and I really want to run for city council, I'm a candidate for city council, they cannot consider that. So those are the types of things that are disallowed as potential communities of interest. Now, when somebody comes forward and talks about their communities of interest, we really want to try to get the following questions answered as they're testifying. And sometimes people answer these questions inadvertently. They're just talking the way they want to talk about their community, and through the process of doing it, they are hitting all of these marks. So the first mark is, what is your community of interest? Maybe what do you call it, or how do you define it? What is its characteristic that makes it a community of interest? Last night I was at a redistricting meeting and somebody said that the airport, they live near the airport and the airport noise. So that could be considered a community of interest. Is the community geographic in nature? Can you map it? Well, in that airport noise example, the people came up and they talked about that their airport noise community is in this part of these 2 districts, and they described it based on street names or neighborhoods. And even somebody provided a map that showed where the airport noise is. What is the community's relationship with the jurisdiction being redistricted? Well, in this case, the community members came forward and said that, in fact, the city council had a lot to do with decisions about what was being done at the airport, whether it was how many flights could come in, or paving roads that go to the airport, or creating regulations and rules around Uber drivers and cabs and people and the traffic going towards the airport. So in a conversation that somebody was having in a 2-minute presentation, they were like, checkbox, 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 even though they didn't know that that's what they were doing. But we want to have our ears tuned to those 3 questions, because when it comes time to actually draw lines, if we're in a process of determining district boundaries and somebody says, hey, that Chaldean community came forward and we really want to work to protect them, and everybody looked at each other and nobody testified as to where the Chaldean community was, and we weren't able to find a data source for that, then it would impair our ability to consider that as fully in the line drawing process. So here we do this thing with some examples. I find these to be fun, and we can make up our own examples if we want. But a group of renters lives downtown and testifies to the commission. Would this be considered a community of interest? Gloria, I see your picture on the screen. Does that sound right? I can't, your microphone's off.
Unmute. It sounds like it is to me because they would have very similar concerns with traffic or crime or those kinds of concerns.
Yeah, so that's the answer. It can be easily mapped. We actually have data in the census on renters versus homeowners, like the renter homeowner ratios. They can share, like you said, policy interests. Traffic was one you mentioned. And the city can have an impact on those things. So that is one. Sylvia, a group of dog owners living in the suburbs banded together to push their local elected officials to put a dog water fountain in their dog park. Sylvia, do you know what a dog water fountain is? I think it's one of the really low water fountains but nevertheless, would that be a community of interest?
Living in the suburbs, I guess, maybe.
I'm saying yes. They share a geographic location. They have needs for public services. Somebody could come up and say, hey, that dog park's actually managed by the county. Go to the county redistricting process. But still, that could be in, even that, people who go to dog parks probably are concerned about public safety and having sidewalks not be all uneven. And that when they walk by that one house, the person's house doesn't have some, 1.5 foot tall fence that isn't regulation and the dog keeps jumping over it or whatever. Statewide group for people who are fans of the San Francisco Giants testifies to the local redistricting commission. So somebody comes and says, I'm a Giants fan. Is that a community of interest? Well, in this example, we're going to say no. It would only be a community of interest if the Giants were actually like moving a facility to the city and people were worried about construction noise or transportation, or was the city giving tax credits to the Giants? And, if it had a nexus to city policy and if it was impacting one part of the city more than the other, then it wouldn't. But, one of the examples I use sometimes is my mom's left-handed. Like left-handed people have issues, the funny can openers and the scissors and things, but they aren't geographically living in one part of the city and they don't have a policy concern with the city. So that's essentially how we try to talk about this when people are coming up and giving verbal testimony. We also have these community of interest worksheets, and we have provided to the city some examples of these so that we can work on getting this up. And I haven't checked to see if it's actually up yet, but the idea with these is to have a tool for people to be able to give public testimony. It gets filled out and submitted on the website. It allows for them to answer those 3 questions. It's basically, in a way, almost forces them to answer those 3 questions. And then once they're done with that, they can go ahead and submit that either like with it can be a Google Doc, not a Google Doc, but it can be a SurveyMonkey form that just, goes to the city. It can be a fillable PDF that they can go ahead and save and email. It can be a printed form that people can fill out and they could mail it in, fax it in, drop it off. You can also have it at any public hearings. The third thing is map submissions. And map submissions are great, and we're seeing and expecting a lot more map submissions a lot earlier in this redistricting cycle than we've ever seen in the past. Part of this is the emergence of really great programs that are much more easily accessible and being used by a lot of agencies in the redistricting process. So the 2 types of maps that you'll end up seeing in this process, one is a community of interest map where people just say, this is my dog park community of interest, and they draw it. The other type of map is a actual full districting plan where people will draw their council district. Now, they can draw their council districts maybe now if they wanted to, but we don't have the final data. So we're probably going to hope that they do more of that actual full line drawing later when the data's final. But if somebody did want to submit a plan now, it would be a legitimate community of interest testimony. The program that is being set up for the commission is called Districtor. It allows for the creation of community of interest maps and of full districting plans. Now I'm going to go ahead and show this tool real quick. I'm just going to stop my sharing and switch what I'm sharing here. And show Districtor on their public site. So we're getting you a license for the city to have its own version of this, and that it will essentially manage, and that all the information from it will be fed into the city, into the process so that you all have access to it. But let's take a nearby city of Santa Clara. And this first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the Draw Communities tool. And in the Draw Communities tool, we'll go to Santa Clara. So it's also nice to draw another agency, because when I'm doing this, I don't want to make anybody watching think like, oh, you know, their demographer already has some idea about the city of San Jose, how things should be drawn. So I can draw the city of Santa Clara. We're not working there. It's fine. So in the city of Santa Clara, I could say, I am the community that lives up near Levi Stadium here. And I literally use this little paintbrush tool to draw. I can make it really fine tipped, like I can adjust it so it's really fine tipped, it's only grabbing one census block at a time, or I can make it really wide tipped and I can grab a whole bunch at a time. But I'll draw all this stuff above the 101 and I can fine tune it, and I can call this my community of interest. If I draw a little bit too much, I can use the eraser tool and I can go in and I can erase. But I've got this really great ability to draw a little area and call that my community. I can go ahead and name it. I can call it north of 101. And I can describe it with whatever I want to describe this. And I can even in the description use some of those questions essentially. If I wanted to, I really wanted to see what was the population of the area, I could do that. I could see the breakdown of it based on ethnicity. I could even shade this map so that it actually showed, like, let's say I wanted to shade and show the Latino population. I could do that. Now it shows the density of the Latino population. But I like this. Let's say I'm doing this thing, and maybe I'll put a point of a location as well. I'll put a little dot up here, and that's my dog park. Whoever lives there is going to be insulted that I called their place a dog park. But I've got my dog park. I have that's an important place. I have my area of interest, and I just save it. Now, when I save it, I have this URL. And if I took this URL and I was to email that to my friends or submit that to the commission, it would allow for them to see this exact same area. And it also, when we have the tool, will allow this to be a submission. Now, that's the version of the program that just draws the area and allows you to submit that. There's the other version of the tool. If I go back here and I do draw districts and I go cities and I go, let me do Santa Clara, yeah. So now it's doing cities, and this city drawing tool is again pretty easy to use, but now it's got some things that are making things a little bit more complex, but really necessary for the line drawing process. And the city of Santa Clara, the population is around 120,000. Each district is around 19,500. So I can go ahead and start drawing my districts. I have a different color for each district, and I can start up here and start drawing my district. And if you notice, see down here, the number keeps growing as I'm drawing the district. I can draw my district until I hit my 19,500. Oh, I went over. It's really actually kind of fun to use. And the idea is to get within that, remember I said equal population? Doesn't have to be perfectly equal, but about 10% deviation. Right now my deviation is 3.5% because it's the deviation of that one district. I can go ahead, and now that I've got that, I can go back and I create the next district. I can lock the one that's already drawn and draw the next district. And I can go over and over, and I can draw all my districts. And it really doesn't take that long to do. I can go to my next district. And through this process of drawing districts, I now am able to create a full redistricting plan for the city of Santa Clara. And then I could go ahead, and once I was done, I could do the same thing. I could save it, have that URL, I could copy that URL, email it to a friend, or I could, when we have it for the city of San Jose one, we'll be able to just submit that as a draft plan. So that is the Districtor tool, and I would encourage you to play with it. It's a really great tool and fun to use. Now, one thing I'm going to mention to you that I might have mentioned in a previous discussion is, and this is going to sound a little counterintuitive, if you stumble across the City of San Jose redistricting tool, I would suggest we don't draw districts yet. The districting process and the way the law is written, we're still waiting for data. Once the data comes out, there's a 21-day waiting period before we can draft plans. So in the spirit of the Fair Maps Act, it's best for us not to be in the role of putting pen to paper until we actually get to that 21 days after the data has been released. What that allows us to do is to come into it with an open mind. If I were to draw that City of Santa Clara plan and draw all 6 districts, whether I know it or not, I'm kind of imprinting in my brain that that's the shape that looks right. And if I drew it 2 or 3 times, and maybe I shared it with a friend and somebody else shared it, I would imprint in my brain certain way of thinking about it spatially. And whether I know it or not, I would start to develop a bias towards the plan that I had created. And it would probably close my mind off to testimony that other people might come forward with that are legitimate issues, or even plans that people might come forward with that are as good or better than my plan. But somehow in my brain, I've created this bias towards the plan that I played around with and drew. So it's probably best for us as a commission to, and us as staff, we at Redistricting Partners don't draw district lines for our clients until it's time to start doing it. But it's best for us to let the community of interest testimony have its full weight by keeping our blank slate kind of in our minds about what districts should look like. The other tool that is being put together for you is a mapping tool that's an in-person mapping tool. And this mapping tool, I've got some of them just by my desk here, will be a laminated full map of the city. And in each of the little areas here, there will be population numbers that are kind of rounded population numbers. So they'll say like 500, 1,000, 2,000. And it allows members of the public to sit down with one of these maps and literally with a dry erase marker start to draw potential districts. And we have calculators and pens, and they start drawing those little districts and adding them up. It really only takes about 15 minutes probably, but we do full workshops. Sometimes we'll do 2 kind of back-to-back with in-person workshops. And it allows people to draw the areas that they think, add them up. And then they realize, oh my gosh, like in that Santa Clara example, that area north of Levi Stadium doesn't have a lot of population. I thought it did. So maybe this district needs to be bigger than I would think. But the ability to do that and have a paper version or an online mapping version is essentially trying to get the most access for people to be able to engage in the process and taking kind of technological hurdles out of the way, trying to meet them where they are in this these line drawing exercises. And just to finish up, this is a schedule that we have. There might be modifications, so I would suggest that anybody watching this, make sure they go to the website for the latest. But we are going to have a lot of community outreach hearings going forward. And I'll say one last thing that's kind of an emerging part of this community outreach part. And that is that we are right now in a period of collecting community of interest testimony and in a period of lots of people okay with being online, but then other people wanting to go and do things in person. And so there's a kind of a little bit of a tension right now with how things are going to be shaping up into the fall and through the remainder of the process. Just to give some of our experience, the community of interest testimony hearings have not been incredibly well attended to date. The State Redistricting Commission hearings have not had a lot of participation relative to what kind of participation they were having a year ago. Albeit a year ago, they already had draft plans. So it's a lot easier to get a lot of people moving once they realize that they're no longer in the district they thought they were in. The other thing is that we've seen in our redistricting work and in other agencies that are doing redistricting that people still have a hesitancy to do the actual in-person. You might have some people who will say we need to do in person, but we did an in-person meeting last night in Long Beach, and it was 12 of us or so up on the stage in a big auditorium, and if you were to go watch the hearing, you would see about 5 times as many participated online as participated in person. So still, it seems as though a large appetite for people to participate using these new tools. But of course, we want to make sure that we do everything, like I said earlier, to meet people where they are, so that if there are people who aren't familiar with how to do things online, there's an avenue for them to participate. But I wouldn't want to create a situation where we accidentally did the opposite, where if is still a rich appetite for people to participate online, working to figure out how to do hybrid is, it seems like the way forward right now. But of course, this is all emerging. We can't look back 10 years ago and say, how many online hearings did we do? Because the answers, there were 0. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions and take any feedback.
Great, thank you so much, Paul. Is there any member of the public who would like to ask questions regarding this community of interest presentation?
There's no member from the public.
Okay, great. Are there any commissioners who may have questions for Paul on this
I do.
item?
I have a question.
Yes, Sylvia.
In my area, there's a real disparity between how the Wi-Fi access is available. The families that live in the flatlands are the ones who are living 3 to 4 families to a home. For us at community of interest, they have to be able to have access to Wi-Fi. And how is that going to really provide a Zoom? I think they would be more apt to go to in person, but again, they've been the ones more hardest hit by COVID. So I see that's a dilemma for my district. And I'm sure for the district next to me, where we have a lot of families that are low income. So how are we going to deal with that is my concern.
Well, just from our experience, I think you're hitting the nail on the head with, the concern about making sure that the access to the redistricting process is, equal among all types of people, whether it's a lack of internet access or inability to get off work to come to a hearing, or maybe they're working at nights and could only do a weekend hearing. There's a lot of this stuff that we need to work together to try to figure out and reduce any barriers. And so I'm sure that you as a commission will be working with the city staff, working also with the changing environment around COVID. Just today, they announced that in Sacramento County, and yesterday, Yolo County is going to reintroduce masks.
Yeah.
In LA City, they're not able to do in-person meetings because of concern about the Delta variant. But then in Long Beach, which is adjacent, they had this in-person meeting last night. I think everybody will probably on the commission and the staff and definitely redistricting partners share the concern about making sure that access is being provided while also trying to balance that with the other elements. We're going to have a problem, I think, when we get into the line drawing process, where we might have to have hearings around times when people will email the commission and say, why are you having a hearing when I'm going to my family for Thanksgiving? Why are you having hearings between Thanksgiving and Christmas? Who would do that? But we're going to be forced to because of the deadlines. So there will be a number of times, I'm sure, where there will be a little bit of distaste for the fact that we're having to make decisions around how we hold hearings with all these competing concerns and fear about, making sure everybody's getting equal access. But we're sharing that concern, and we're always having that lens when we're discussing what hearings we're going to do, what outreach we're going to do, what, how we can communicate to the public. Then I think, we have to be just consistently trying to do our best with that.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you, Paul. So moving down our agenda, the next item is new business. And our consultant Redistricting Partners has a mock redistricting software exercise with the districtor. So I'll pass it back to Redistricting Partners.
All righty, so we'll just do the time warp. and go back to the fact that I did that little redistricting presentation using the software. It just kind of was built into the other one. But if we do have questions about this tool, it is, it's a really robust tool, but also pretty simple. And I would suggest maybe after this meeting, you can navigate to it the same way I did, just going to districtr.org. And then, you know, if you used to live in in Arizona, and you want to go down and draw the city of Mesa, that's a redistricting partners map here. And you can go ahead and draw Mesa, Arizona, and practice playing with the tool in order to get more familiar with it, and also in order for you to think about ways that you might want to communicate with it with your friends. And then also one of the great things to do, I literally did this. I got my mom to log in and try it. Like, get family members that you might be concerned about their ability or comfort with it, and get them coming in and trying it and seeing if it makes sense to them and works for them. So I think I kind of jumped ahead in my last presentation to cover that item, but I'm happy to go into it anymore.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I wasn't sure if there would be a more substantive discussion on that, but I was curious, since we're going to have the option for individuals who do come to the public hearings to draw, like physically draw their desired maps, is that somehow their proposed like paper maps, will that get incorporated to the Districtor software data, or will we just have it pulled paper and then the software
That's a great question.
submittals?
So the Districtor maps will have the ability of the city getting all of these forms and having the links to be able to go into Districtor and look at what their maps look like. But we're also going to be downloading those maps and creating them for you as PDFs. The PDF maps will have all the data that we've been talking about. It'll have not only the overview map, but it'll have focused maps of each of the individual districts they drew. So you'll have like a zoomed in map that you can look a little closer at any community. So we'll be providing that PDF map. We'll also be providing like a Google map, and then we'll also be providing a technical shape file. It's a GIS file. So all three of those file types will be available for all of the maps drawn in Districtor. We will also be taking maps that are produced from the public, and we will be drawing those to the best of our kind of eyeball can, and making those available in the same formats. The idea with this is, as much as possible, that we want to be, you know, technology agnostic when it comes to receiving this information, and make sure that the really sophisticated person that uses some other awesome mapping program, that their map gets evaluated the same as somebody who, you know, went to a community meeting and they and their family members, you know, drew a map with the dry erase marker.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from our commissioners for Paul? All right, I don't see any hands raised. Thank you very much, Paul. Moving on to the next agenda item, we have public comment. So this is the time for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. The Brown Act prohibits the commission from discussing any item that is not agendized. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes. Clerk, do we have any public speakers?
No, there are no hands up.
Okay. The next redistricting commission meeting will be August 19th, 2021 at 6 p.m. via Zoom. And we have reached the end of our meeting. So this meeting of the redistricting commission is now adjourned. Thank you everyone for your time.